typically don't admit murders, sexual assaults and murders to police officers unless in fact they probably have done it. So it was clear, we felt, he was responsible for the Tricia Reitler disappearance.
She had such a zest for life, and she'd walk in the room and everybody knew she was there.
Tricia Reitler, a 19-year-old psych major at Indiana Wesleyan University, was on her way to becoming a family counselor.
Her goal was to be able to put families back together again.
Then, in March 1993, Donna and Gary Reitler received that late-night phone call every parent dreads. A cop from Marion, Indiana was on the line.
He says, "Do you know where Tricia is?" In my heart, I knew that something was drastically wrong.
Tricia had walked to an off-campus supermarket and never returned to her dorm. Now, nearly 20 years later, her parents are still waiting. You purchased a cemetery plot?
Yes.
No headstone?
No, not until we find her.
And we have no answers. And somebody out there, that's what eats at me. Somebody out there has that answer for us.
Tricia Reitler wasn't even Prosecutor Beaumont's case, but he was deeply moved by her parents.
And that was always a horrible crime to me. I mean, I knew about the facts of the case, and I knew about the family. I never met them, but I read all the newspaper articles and the accounts of them, asking for help.
Beaumont felt certain that suspected serial killer Larry Hall was responsible. Not only did Hall live 25 minutes from Indiana Wesleyan, he'd been identified chasing two co-eds there just a week after Tricia went missing. So in the summer of 1995, a month after convicting Hall for Jesse Roach's murder, Beaumont was leading a search for Tricia. It was in those same Indiana backwoods where Hall had told Indiana authorities he dreamt he killed and buried Tricia.
I wanted to feel like I did everything I could to see if we could find her body.
But after 2 days searching in sweltering heat and humidity, Tricia's body didn't turn up.
We couldn't find anything. Doesn't mean it wasn't there.
Then, Beaumont decided to try something completely different.
I came up with the idea of putting somebody in the prison cell with him to see if we can get him to tell us what he did with Tricia Reitler.
You wanted to plant a snitch.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't think you were crazy.
Most people did think I was crazy, yeah. But I was able to convince them that we should do it anyway.
Enter Jimmy Keene, the drug dealer Beaumont had just convicted and sent to a low-security prison.
Why did he stick out in your mind?
Because I knew he was kind of a con man. He was smart. I knew if anybody could pull it off, he would probably be the one to be able to pull it off.
He says, "You've been trained in martial art." He goes, "You can go into a dangerous environment where a lot of people can't. You can maintain and protect yourself in an environment like that."
In return, Beaumont offered Jimmy freedom. But first, Jimmy would have to exact more than a confession.
I told him unless we found the body, he would get no credit. No body, you'd get nothing.
Jimmy was skeptical. He was a drug dealer, not a criminal profiler. And he knew this was a mission impossible. He said no. But then, fate intervened. Jimmy's dad suffered a stroke. Weeks later, frail and sickly, he came to visit Jimmy.
My dad was in a wheelchair. Now this is Big Jim, the guy that had been Superman to me my whole entire life. We cried through the window to each other and we talked for a while, and he didn't even know about the offer. Nobody knew about it.
Jimmy now realized that he had a one-time only opportunity to fix the mess he'd made for himself and get out while his dad was still alive.
As soon as we were done with the visit, I called my lawyer. I said, "Tell Beaumont I'm going to take him up on his offer."
The mission was on. So on August 3rd, 1998, federal marshals escorted Jimmy into the psychiatric prison.
Once they stepped out the door, I was on my own.
Jimmy's cover story was that he was a convicted weapons runner whose 40-year sentence pushed him over the edge and landed him in the psych prison, a psych prison filled with killers. His one inside contact, the chief psychiatrist, couldn't protect him, nor could his outside lifeline, a female FBI agent who visited as his girlfriend to monitor his progress.
I did have a hotline to her too, so if I got caught in a dangerous situation, I could get a hold of her, and the deal was they'd have me out there in 24 hours.
They had your back.
They had my back.
At least you thought.
That's what I thought.
When Keene's mission began, it was all about him, his shot at freedom. He had few feelings, if any, about Tricia Reitler or her family. All he wanted was to get in and out with Trisha's location and as fast as possible. Day 1, breakfast in the mess hall. Jimmy zeroed in on Larry Hall.
I was waiting with my tray and I look over and there he is, 20, 25 feet away from me, sitting there all by himself. It felt like a magnet was compelling me to come to him. And finally I bumped shoulders with him on purpose.
Jimmy explained he was a brand new inmate needing directions to the library. Hall obliged.
I kind of slapped him on the shoulder. I said, thanks a lot. I said, I appreciate that from a cool guy like you.
After that, they occasionally talked. But the next step came when Jimmy was invited to join Hall's Breakfast Club.
Which in the prison system, it's a big thing of who you're invited to have your breakfast with.
Keene thought he was making progress, but then prison politics got in the way.
I left out of the chow hall one morning and a few really big muscular guys came up to me and they said, hey, the old man wants to talk to you right now. Right now he wants to talk to you.
The old man was celebrity mafioso Vincent the Chin Gigante, also known as the Oddfather, who used to wander around New York City in his bathrobe pretending to be nuts.
And he goes, hey boy, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What are you hanging around with all them baby killers over there for? He goes, you hang with us from now on. He goes, you hang around them people. He goes, you know, maybe somebody comes up and puts a knife in your back. You know, and he'd be at my cell early in the morning. Jimmy, get up. We're gonna go out and play some bocce ball. I said, what about breakfast? Well, we'll go out and get a round of bocce ball then first, then we'll go have breakfast.
It's all very nice, except you're trying to get out of prison.
Exactly.
The Chin was taking up Jimmy's valuable time, making it harder to even talk to Hall. But then, he learned Hall's favorite show was America's Most Wanted. So one Saturday night in the TV room, Jimmy would make a daring move, putting his body on the line just to gain Larry's trust. Coming up, Jimmy's new best friend shares a nightmare.
It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, to listen to this kind of stuff and not just rip him apart.
When the Inside Man continues.